There is a darkness that hides beneath the surface of a smile, a bitterness concealed in the soft lilt of a voice that says one thing but means another. The world is filled with those who cannot bear to confront their own resentment, who do not have the strength to speak their hatred aloud, and so they dress it up in politeness, disguise it in humor, bury it beneath false kindness. They are the masters of silent warfare, striking not with fists but with words that wound without breaking skin, leaving invisible bruises on the soul. The passive-aggressive mind is a mind at war with itself, unable to decide between love and hate, torn between the need for acceptance and the desire for revenge. They do not confront you openly, for that would require courage. They do not stand before you and declare their contempt, for that would force them to face the consequences of their feelings. Instead, they dance around the truth. They weave a web of sarcasm, backhanded compliments, subtle digs that cut deeper than an outright insult. They tell you how wonderful you are while rolling their eyes behind your back. They say, "I wish I had your confidence," but the weight of their words drips with poison. They smile at you, but their hands are clenched into fists beneath the table. Their hostility is a whisper, not a shout, a quiet storm that brews in the background of every interaction, and you feel it, even if you cannot see it. You sense it in the way they forget to invite you to gatherings, in the way they delay their responses, in the way their laughter fades just a little too quickly when you enter the room. You hear it in the way they praise you, but only in a way that reminds you of your flaws. That dress looks amazing on you. I could never pull off something that shows my stomach like that. What a clever idea. I never would have thought of that, because I usually go for more sophisticated approaches. It is an art, a performance, a game of subtle destruction. And when you finally call them out, when you dare to ask if something is wrong, they recoil as if wounded. They look at you with wide eyes and say, "What are you talking about? I was just joking. You are too sensitive." They turn your reality upside down. They make you doubt yourself. They twist the knife in deeper by making you feel like the problem. And so you sit there wondering if maybe, just maybe, you imagined it all. That is their victory. That is their power. They do not need to destroy you outright. They only need to make you question your own mind. It is not always conscious. They are not always aware of the games they play, of the way they poison the air around them. Some of them have spent so long suppressing their anger, their jealousy, their disappointment, that they no longer even recognize it within themselves. They believe they are good people. They tell themselves they would never intentionally hurt anyone, and yet their resentment seeps out through the cracks in their carefully maintained facade, because no mask can hold forever. The truth of a person always finds a way to reveal itself, no matter how deeply buried. The worst part is how easily they can make you feel guilty, as if you are the one who has done something wrong. They withdraw just enough to make you chase them. They offer affection just sparingly enough to keep you desperate for their approval. They punish you with silence rather than words, with absence rather than action. They turn your own kindness against you, feeding off your need to be liked, to be understood, to be at peace. And the longer you stay in their orbit, more exhausted you become, because you are fighting a battle with an enemy who will never admit that a war even exists. You tell yourself it is not that bad. You tell yourself you are imagining it. You tell yourself they do not mean any harm, because you want to believe the best in them, because you do not want to accept the truth that some people will smile while secretly hating you. Some people will laugh while secretly wishing you would fall. Some people will pretend to be your friend while hoping for your failure. And it is a hard truth to swallow, because it means you must let go of illusions. It means you must walk away. It means you must stop justifying the way they make you feel. and start listening to what your instincts have been telling you all along. There is a way out, but it is not easy. It requires you to stop playing their game, to stop explaining yourself, to stop hoping they will change. It requires you to recognize that some people will never love you the way you deserve to be loved, that some relationships are not worth salvaging, that you do not have to prove your worth to those who are determined to undermine it. It requires you to step into the light of truth, to choose honesty over comfort, clarity over confusion, strength over submission. It requires you to see them for what they are, and more importantly, to see yourself for what you are. Someone who does not need to beg for kindness, someone who does not have to tolerate quiet cruelty, someone who is strong enough to walk away from anything that does not serve their peace. There is a kind of person who never offers a word of encouragement, never lifts you up, never speaks to you without pointing out something you could do better. They wrap their words in the thin veil of helpfulness, but beneath the surface, there is no kindness, no love, only a deep and relentless need to make you feel small. Their voice carries the weight of judgment. Their eyes scan you for imperfections. Their presence drains the air from the room, and you feel it before you even hear the words. You brace yourself every time they open their mouth because you know what is coming. A comment, a critique, a reminder that in their eyes, you are never quite enough. They will tell you it is for your own good, that they are only trying to help, but their help never feels like help. It feels like erosion, a slow chipping away at your confidence, at your sense of self, at the belief that you are worthy just as you are. Their words are not spoken to guide you. They are spoken to control, to diminish, to keep you in a place where you are always reaching for their approval, but never quite grasping it, because that is their power. That is the role they have created for themselves, the superior one, the wise one, the one who sees the flaws you cannot see and who must therefore be obeyed. You try to reason with yourself. You tell yourself they mean well, that they just have high standards, that maybe you really do need to improve. Maybe you should be thinner, smarter, more successful, more disciplined. Maybe you should dress differently, speak differently, behave differently. Maybe if you could just fix yourself, they would finally approve of you, finally accept you, finally stop finding fault. But that is the lie, that is the trap, because no matter how much you change, no matter how much you perfect yourself in their presence, they will always find something else to criticize. They will always keep you chasing an approval they have no intention of ever giving, because it was never about helping you. It was never about making you better. It was always about power, about control, about making themselves feel bigger by making you feel smaller. And the cruelest part is that they do it with a smile, with a soft voice, with a careful choice of words that makes it seem as if they are being kind, as if they are merely pointing out what you cannot see. The cruelest part is that they convince you to doubt yourself. They make you believe that their voice is your own, that their judgments are the truth, that their disapproval is something you must earn your way out of. They will criticize how you speak, how you walk, how you dress. They will pick apart your work, your relationships, your choices, your very existence. They will say things like, "I am just being honest," as if honesty is an excuse for cruelty. They will tell you, "I just want the best for you," as if their words are a gift and not a weapon. They will insist that they are only saying what no one else will say, but what they mean is that they are the only ones willing to tear you down with such precision, such consistency, such devotion to the task of breaking you. And if you push back, if you stand up, if you dare to say that their words hurt, that their criticism is unwarranted, they will turn it back on you. They will say you are too sensitive, that you cannot take feedback, that you are overreacting. They will make you feel like the problem. They will act as though they are the victim. They will tell you that the world is harsh and that they are simply preparing you for it. But the world is not as cruel as they are. The world does not wake up every day searching for ways to make you feel like you are not enough. The world does not whisper in your ear that you must always be improving, that you must always be changing, that you must always be striving for some unattainable perfection. The world does not love you conditionally, but they do. The hardest truth is that these people are often the ones closest to you. They are the ones you have trusted, the ones you have looked up to, the ones you have allowed into the most sacred parts of your heart. They are friends, family, mentors, partners, people who should be protecting you but instead have taken it upon themselves to mold you into what they think you should be. And in doing so, they steal from you the most valuable thing you have, your own sense of self, your own belief in your worth, your own ability to stand tall in the knowledge that you do not need their approval to be whole. There comes a time when you must decide if you will continue to live under the weight of their judgment or if you will break free. There comes a moment when you must ask yourself if you are willing to spend your life seeking validation from someone who will never give it, when you must look in the mirror and remember who you were before they convinced you that you were not enough, because you were enough before they got to you, you were whole before they told you otherwise. And you still are. There is a certain kind of silence that cuts deeper than any spoken word, a silence that follows your joy, a silence that lingers when you share your triumphs and expect the warmth of celebration, but are instead met with cold indifference, is the silence of someone who does not wish to see you rise, who does not want to acknowledge your success, who cannot bear the light shining on you because it casts a shadow over them. You feel it before you even register it. You feel it in the way their eyes do not light up, in the way their voice lacks enthusiasm, in the way they nod absent-mindedly, and then swiftly shift the conversation away from you, back to themselves, back to something trivial, back to anything that ensures your moment of happiness is brief, fleeting, insignificant. You tell them about your promotion and they shrug and say, "Oh, that's nice," as if it is nothing, as if it is not the culmination of your years of effort, as if it does not matter, because to them, it does not. You tell them about the project. You poured your heart into the one that finally gained recognition, and they find a way to poke holes in it, to question its worth, to remind you that others have done more, have gone further, have achieved greater. You tell them about your dreams coming to life, and they remind you not to get ahead of yourself, to stay humble, to be realistic. But their concern is not about your humility or your realism. Their concern is that for even one moment you believed in yourself more than they believed you should. And it does not always come in the form of direct discouragement. Sometimes it is more subtle, more insidious. Sometimes it is a quiet dismissal, a glance at their phone as you speak, an exaggerated yawn as if your success is dull and unimportant. Sometimes it is a change in subject, a sudden shift to their own problems, their own stories, their own needs, as if your joy is an inconvenience they must quickly move past. Sometimes it is a backhanded comment, a casual remark that undermines what you have achieved. "Oh, anyone could have done that. Oh, you got lucky. Oh, let's see if you can keep it up." You tell yourself not to take it personally. You tell yourself maybe they are distracted, maybe they are having a bad day, maybe they did not hear you clearly. But deep down, you know the truth. You know that if it was someone else, if it were them, if the roles were reversed, they would expect the world to stop, for them to listen to them, to celebrate them. They would expect applause. They would expect admiration. They would expect you to be there for them. In a way, they refuse to be there for you. And that is when it hits you. They do not want to see you win. They do not want to see you happy. They do not want to see you thrive, because every step you take forward feels like a step backward for them. Every accomplishment you achieve reminds them of what they have not done. Every moment of recognition you receive makes them feel unseen. Every bit of success you taste becomes a bitter pill for them to swallow, because in their mind, life is not a journey to be shared. It is a competition to be won. You try to ignore it. You try to pretend it does not matter, that their approval is not something you need, but you feel it anyway. You feel the weight of their indifference like a heavy cloud over your joy. You feel the absence of their support like an emptiness in a space that should be filled with love. You feel the coldness in their words, and it stings, because these are the people who are supposed to be on your side. These are the people who should be cheering thee loudest. These are the people you would have celebrated without hesitation had it been their success instead of yours. And then the realization comes crashing down. They were never truly with you. They were never truly rooting for you. They only stood beside you when you were struggling, when you were doubting yourself, when you were not a threat to their fragile sense of self. But the moment you started to believe in yourself, the moment you started to step into your power, they pulled away, not physically, perhaps, but emotionally, spiritually, energetically. They retreated into themselves because your light was too bright for them to handle. The hardest part is letting go. The hardest part is accepting that some people will never clap for you, no matter how much you would have clapped for them. The hardest part is choosing to walk away from those who cannot love you without condition, without resentment, without competition. But there comes a moment when you must. You must surround yourself with those who celebrate, not just tolerate, with those who uplift, not undermine, with those who see your success as a victory for both of you and not as a loss for them, because the ones who truly love you will never shrink in the presence of your greatness. They will never turn away when you shine. They will never silence your joy out of fear that it drowns their own. There is something unsettling about the way they speak to you, something just beneath the surface of their words, something unspoken, yet deafeningly loud. They smile, but the warmth never reaches their eyes. They laugh, but it is hollow, empty, devoid of the true joy that should accompany shared moments between people who claim to care about each other. Their voice carries a sharpness, a tension, a weight that does not match the words themselves. They say all the right things, but something in their tone, something in the way their lips tighten, in the way their hands clench, in the way their body shifts, ever so slightly away from you, tells a different story, a truer story, one of hidden resentment. It is not always obvious. Not at first. Resentment is a patient thing, a slow poison that seeps through the cracks over time, at first undetectable, but gradually making itself known in 1,000 little ways. The way they hesitate before offering congratulations, the way they linger just a little too long on your mistakes, the way they correct you not with kindness, but with a hint of satisfaction, as if your misstep brings them relief. It is in the way they joke about your flaws under the guise of humor, in the way they downplay your struggles, as if to say they have had it worse, in the way they offer advice that never quite feels like advice, but more like a quiet attempt to remind you of your shortcomings. They do not come at you with open hostility. No, that would be too obvious, too easy to confront. Instead, their resentment festers in silence, bleeding into their actions, their words, their very presence, like a storm brewing just beyond the horizon, close enough to feel but never close enough to call out. And so you begin to question yourself, wondering if you are imagining it, if you are being too sensitive, if you are reading too much into things. But your body knows before your mind does. Your gut tells you something is wrong. You feel the tension in their presence, the unease that lingers after they walk away, the subtle weight that settles in your chest whenever you are around them. And then there are the moments when the mask slips, when the bitterness beneath their words becomes undeniable, when their hostility rises to the surface, for just long enough to be seen. They speak of you with an edge in their voice, their words laced with an almost imperceptible venom. They do not outright insult you, but their praise feels like an insult in disguise. That is great for someone like you. You are really improving. I did not think you would do so well. They frame their resentment as concern, their hostility as honesty, their bitterness as just an unfortunate truth that you must accept. And if you react, if you push back, if you dare to call it what it is, they retreat into the safety of denial, insisting you are overreacting, that they did not mean it, that you are imagining things. But you are not imagining it. You are feeling what they refuse to say aloud. You are picking up on the weight of the things left unsaid, the grudges they carry, but will never admit to the jealousy, the frustration, the unspoken belief that you have taken something they feel should be theirs, that you have achieved something they believe you did not deserve, that you exist in a space they wish belonged to them. They will never say it, not directly, because to do so would be to reveal too much, to acknowledge the depth of their own dissatisfaction, to confront the reality that their resentment is not truly about you at all, but about them, about their own fears, their own failures, their own inability to make peace with themselves. And perhaps that is the greatest tragedy of all, because hidden resentment does not only destroy relationships, it destroys the one who carries it. It festers inside them, poisoning their thoughts, clouding their heart, making them unable to experience true joy, true connection, true peace. They think their bitterness is justified, that their hostility is deserved, but in truth, it is a cage of their own making. They are trapped by it, unable to truly celebrate anyone else, unable to love freely, unable to release themselves from the weight of their own dissatisfaction. And until they face it, until they look inward instead of outward, until they stop blaming the world for their pain and start confronting what truly lives inside them, they will continue to wear that mask, that false smile, that hollow laugh. They will continue to resent not only you but themselves. And so the choice is yours. Do you stay in the presence of such quiet poison? Do you continue to absorb the weight of their resentment, hoping one day it will fade, hoping one day they will let it go? Or do you step away? Do you release yourself from their bitterness? Do you refuse to let their hidden hostility cast a shadow over your own light? Because the truth is, you cannot fix what they refuse to face. You cannot heal what they will not acknowledge. You cannot make someone love you purely when their heart is heavy with resentment. So you must choose your peace. You must choose yourself. You must let them carry their own burden and refuse to make it your own. There are words that people speak, and then there are words, unspoken words, that live in the space between movements, in the subtle shifts of the body, in the flicker of an eye that does not meet yours, in the stiffness of a posture that is too rigid, too controlled, too distant. You feel it before you understand it. You sense the tension, the forced politeness, the mask that is just a little too tight. You do not have to hear the hatred for it to be there, because it already exists in the way they stand, the way they sit, the way they avoid the most human thing of all, connection. You have seen it before, perhaps without even realizing. You have felt it in a handshake that is too limp, or too brief in a smile that does not reach the eyes, in the way someone's arms remain crossed, even in moments that call for openness. And you tell yourself it is nothing because they have not said anything cruel, because they have not lashed out, because they are polite, even friendly. But the body does not lie. The body will always betray the truth. There is a moment when you are speaking to them when you notice the slight delay before they respond, the way their lips press together as if to stop something unsaid, the way their hands clench just for a moment before they relax, the way they look past you instead of at you, the way they shift in place as if being near you is discomfort itself. And you ask yourself why. If there is no hostility, if there is no resentment, if there is no hidden bitterness, then why does it feel like a wall has been built between you? A wall you did not create, a wall that has existed for longer than you can remember. There is a kind of loneliness that does not come from being alone, but from knowing you were meant to be left out. It is a silence that echoes not because the world has gone quiet, but because voices that once welcomed you have chosen to move. Without you, there is no grand betrayal, no explosive confrontation, no clear moment where everything falls apart. Instead, it happens in the small things, in the spaces where you should be, but are not, in the stories you hear after they have already been told, in the laughter that fades the moment you arrive, in the way you realize too late that the gathering, the event, the moment that mattered never included you at all. You feel it before you can prove it, before the words are spoken, before the invitations stop, before the patterns become impossible to ignore. There is a shift in the air, a hesitation in their voices, a glance exchanged between them before they speak, a pause just long enough for you to understand that something has already been decided without you. At first you tell yourself it is coincidence, a mistake, an oversight. But the more it happens, the more you see the truth. It is deliberate, it is intentional, it is exclusion wrapped in politeness, isolation disguised as circumstance. And when you finally gather the courage to ask about it, the answers are light, dismissive, casual. Oh, we didn't think you'd be interested. Oh, it was just last minute. Oh, you must have missed the message. But you know better. You know what it means to be slowly erased, not with words but with absence, not with confrontation but with neglect. You know what it feels like to walk into a room and sense that something has already happened, something that did not wait for you, something that was never meant to include you. You recognize the weight of being tolerated rather than welcomed, of being acknowledged, but never truly seen, of being present, but never fully belonging. It is not about missing one invitation, not about being left out of one conversation. It is about the pattern, the repetition, the growing realization that this is not an accident, that this is not forgetfulness, that this is something else. Entirely something unspoken but deeply felt. They are drawing a line and you are on the other side. They are closing a door and they are doing it quietly, without confrontation, without a single word that you could fight back against, because exclusion does not need words. Exclusion is an absence, a void, a missing seat at the table that tells you exactly where you stand. And the hardest part is the knowing that if you were to push, if you were to ask, if you were to demand an answer, they would deny it, they would laugh, they would call you paranoid, they would say, of course you are still part of us. Of course we still care. Of course nothing has changed, even as you stand there feeling the distance stretching wider with every breath, because they need you to believe it is in your head. They need you to question yourself. They need you to sit in the discomfort without ever placing the blame where it belongs. But the body knows before the mind does. The heart understands what the mind struggles to accept, that you are no longer one of them, that they have chosen to move on without you, that their world continues just as it always has, except now, without you in it. And it is not because you did something wrong, Not because you changed, not because you failed. It is simply because they decided at some point in ways you may never fully understand that you were no longer necessary, no longer part of what they were building together. And so you are left with a choice. Do you continue to stand at the edges, waiting, hoping, searching for a way back in? Or do you turn away? Do you let them go? Do you stop chasing ghosts of friendships that no longer exist in the way they once did? Because there is a pain worse than being alone, and it is the pain of holding on to people who have already let go. It is the pain of trying to belong in spaces that no longer welcome you. It is the pain of convincing yourself that if you just try harder, if you just wait longer, if you just prove your worth one more time, then maybe, just maybe, they will open the door again. But doors that are closed with silence are rarely opened again, and you deserve more than a place that only remembers you when it is convenient. You deserve more than a seat at a table where your absence goes unnoticed. You deserve more than people who make you question your own worth by the way they choose to erase you from their world bit by bit, moment by moment, until you are no longer sure if you were ever truly there to begin with. Perhaps it is in the way they laugh at the wrong time, a laugh too sharp, too empty, too practiced. Perhaps it is in the way they mirror your emotions, just enough to seem engaged, but never enough to truly meet you where you are. Perhaps it is in the way they stand with their body turned slightly away, a subconscious exit, always prepared. Perhaps it is in the way their voice strains when they offer praise, in the way their eyes narrow when you speak of something good, in the way their breath catches just for a moment when you succeed. You feel it, and it lingers. It stays with you after they leave. It clings to you like something unresolved, something unfinished, something unspoken. You replay the conversation in your mind, not because of what was said, but because of what was not said, because of what was felt, because of what you know deep inside, even if you cannot explain it. You know when someone does not truly wish you well. You know when someone stands before you but is already somewhere else, when someone nods, but is already rejecting you, when someone smiles, but behind that smile is a resentment they cannot even fully admit to themselves. And so you wonder, do they know? Do they know that their body has given them away? Do they know that their hatred is showing in the way their shoulders tense when you enter the room, in the way their breath is just a little too short, in the way their words, though polite, feel like they are pushing you away rather than bringing you closer? Do they think they have hidden it well enough? Do they think you do not see? But you do see. You feel it in the space between words. You hear it in the weight of a silence that should not be there. You recognize it because the body speaks a language older than words, a language deeper than logic, a language that reveals truths even when the mind refuses to acknowledge them. And so you trust it. You trust what you feel. You trust what their body is telling you, even when their words deny it, because you know the body never lies. There is a particular kind of betrayal that does not announce itself with fury, does not wound with the sharpness of an open insult, does not strike with the force of an enemy's blow. No, this betrayal is quieter, more insidious. It smiles at you. It nods when you speak. It meets your gaze with warmth, with agreement, with all the outward signs of friendship. But beneath that surface, there is something else, something hidden, something festering, and you do not see it at first because you are not meant to. That is the nature of this betrayal. It is not meant to be noticed until the damage is already done. They greet you with kindness. Their words are soft, their gestures familiar. They listen, they nod, they laugh at the right moments. They make you feel safe. They make you believe that they are on your side, that they are with you, that they value you. But it is all an illusion. Because when you are not there, when you are not watching, when you are not within earshot, their voice changes, their words shift from kindness to poison, their agreement turns to mockery, their laughter becomes something colder, something crueler, something meant to wound. And you do not know this at first. You go on believing in them, trusting them, offering them your thoughts, your time, your vulnerabilities, all while they collect each moment, each word, each weakness, not as a friend, but as an observer, as someone who will carry those pieces of you into other rooms, into other conversations, and twist them into something unrecognizable, something meant to entertain, meant to diminish, meant to make others doubt who you are, what you stand for, what your worth truly is. The realization does not come all at once. It comes in pieces, in whispers that find their way back to you, in the shift of someone's tone when they speak to you, in the hesitation, in the eyes of those who once met you with certainty. You start to notice the way people react to your name, the way conversations quiet when you walk into a room, the way something intangible yet undeniable has changed. And at first you tell yourself you are imagining it, because surely this person, this friend, this familiar presence would not do this to you. But then the pieces begin to fit together. The patterns become clear. The betrayal takes shape. And the pain of it is not just in what they have said, but in the pretense, in the performance, in the knowledge that every moment you shared with them was a lie, that the warmth you felt was never real, that their friendship was never more than a mask, that they stood beside you, not out of loyalty but out of convenience, and now you see them for what they are. A chameleon shifting to whatever shape suits them, a mirror reflecting what others want to see, a person who does not stand for anything but simply bends to whatever will earn them favor, power, amusement. And so, you are left with a choice. Do you confront them? Do you demand answers? Do you call out the betrayal, knowing that people like this will never admit to their deception, will never own the damage they have caused? Or do you step away? Do you let them remain in their world of whispers and masks while you remove yourself from it? Because the truth is, their words may have shaped the way others see you, but they do not have to shape the way you see yourself. They may have spoken against you, but their words are not more powerful than the truth of who you are. You do not need to prove anything to them. You do not need to fight for a place in the heart of someone who was never truly with you. You do not need to waste your energy on someone who thrives in deception, because the moment you see them for what they are is the moment you are free from their hold. No more second guessing, no more wondering if you are imagining things, no more questioning your own worth because of the whispers of someone who never deserved your trust to begin with. So you walk away with your dignity, intact with your energy, reclaimed with the certainty that people like this always reveal themselves in time, and when they do, when their true nature is made clear, when others begin to see what you have already learned, they will be left only with the ruins of their own deception, because people who build their lives on falsehoods eventually find that the foundation crumbles beneath them, and when that happens, you will not be there to witness it. You will be too far ahead, too strong, too certain of yourself to ever look back. There is a betrayal more insidious than open hostility, a deception more cruel than direct opposition. It does not strike you with anger, does not wound you with confrontation. Instead, it embraces you with one hand while sharpening the knife with the other. It wears the mask of warmth, of friendship, of loyalty, but beneath it there is nothing but shadows, nothing but a carefully constructed illusion designed to keep you blind to the truth. And the truth is that the person smiles at you, the person who nods as you speak, the person who offers their laughter, their praise, their seeming kindness, is not the person you think they are. There is another version of them, one you do not see, but others do. One who speaks your name with a different tone, one whose words about you are not soft but sharp, not kind but cutting, not loyal but laced with quiet malice. This version of them thrives in whispered conversations, in glances exchanged behind your back, in subtle insinuations that taint your name in rooms where you are not present. They smile in your presence, and yet they strip you down in your absence. They stand beside you, yet plant doubt in others. They nod when you speak, but later they twist your words into something ugly, something unrecognizable, something that makes people hesitate before believing in you, before trusting you, before seeing you as you truly are. And perhaps the cruelest part is that you do not know, not at first, not until the whispers find their way back to you, not until the weight of their words spoken in secret reaches your ears and suddenly things begin to make sense. The distance you felt from others, the way conversations would change when you entered a room, the quiet hesitation in the eyes of people who once met you with certainty, and you wonder how long it has been happening. How many words have been spoken, how many moments have been stolen, how many people now see you through a lens you never chose because someone else decided to paint a different version of you, a version that serves them better than the truth ever could. And when you finally see it, when the illusion shatters, when the weight of their deception presses down on you, there is a part of you that wants to believe it was a mistake, that they did not mean it, that perhaps it was not as bad as you think. But deep down, you know the truth. You know because the signs were always there. The way they were always just a little too curious about your failures, the way they pressed for details about your weaknesses, the way they laughed at your jokes but never quite with the same sincerity as others, the way they seemed to collect pieces of you as if waiting for the right moment to use them. You see it all now, and the anger rises, but so does the grief, because this is not just betrayal, this is a loss of trust, a loss of the person you thought they were, a loss of the safety you once felt in their presence, and you wonder if they ever truly cared, if the warmth was ever real, if the friendship was ever anything more than a performance designed to keep you close enough to be used, but never close enough to be safe. And so you are left with a choice. Do you confront them? Do you call out the betrayal? Do you demand answers, knowing that the person who wears two faces will never willingly remove the mask? Or do you step away? Do you walk without explanation, without justification, without giving them the satisfaction of seeing how deeply they have wounded you? Because the truth is, you do not need their confession to validate what you already know. You do not need them to admit it for it to be real. The betrayal does not disappear simply because they deny it. So you let them keep their mask, you let them keep their secrets, you let them believe they have fooled the world if that is what they need to sleep at night. But you do not let them keep you. You do not let them hold a place in your life that they have already desecrated. You do not allow yourself to stay in the presence of someone who can smile at you while sharpening the blade meant for your back. Because someone who speaks one way to your face and another behind your back is not a friend, is not an ally, is not someone who deserves your trust. They are a ghost wearing a familiar face, an echo of something that was never real, and you owe them nothing. Not your anger, not your revenge, not even your sadness. You owe them only this: to walk away and never give them the chance to hurt you again. There is a kind of pain that does not come from wounds you can see, but from wounds you are told do not exist. It is the slow erosion of your own reality, the quiet unraveling of your certainty as someone stands before you and tells you that what you feel is not real, that what you experience is wrong, that the very core of your emotions is something to be dismissed, something to be mocked, something to be reshaped into something smaller, something quieter, something easier for them to ignore. It does not begin all at once. No, it starts in the smallest moments, in the sighs, in the eye rolls, in the quick laugh that makes you question whether what you just said was ridiculous, whether what you just felt was too much. It begins in the way they respond, when you share something that matters to you, in the way their voice takes on that amused condescension, when they say, "Oh, you're overreacting. Oh, you're too sensitive. Oh, you always make things a bigger deal than they are." And at first you think maybe they are right, maybe you misunderstood, maybe you are being irrational, maybe your emotions are too much, maybe you are too much. But then it happens again and again and again, and each time a little piece of you shrinks, each time you hesitate before speaking, each time you catch yourself swallowing the words before they can leave your mouth, each time you feel something rising inside of you, but you push it back down, because what is the point? What is the point of expressing yourself if all it brings is dismissal, if all it earns you is ridicule, if all it does is make you feel like a burden instead of a person? You see it in their smirk, in the way they shake their head when you try to explain how you feel. You hear it in the way they laugh at your pain, as if it is a joke, as if the things that hurt you are nothing more than entertainment for them. You feel it in the way they turn your emotions against you, twisting your own feelings into proof of your weakness, into evidence that you are unstable, irrational, incapable of handling reality. And the worst part is that they do it so well, so subtly, so convincingly, that you start to believe them. You start to doubt yourself. You start to wonder if maybe you are the problem, if maybe you are the one who needs to change, if maybe the way you feel is not valid at all. And that is how it happens. That is how you lose yourself. Not in one moment, but in 100 small ones, in 1,000 little cuts that bleed you dry, until you are no longer sure where you end, and their version of you begins, until you no longer trust your own emotions, until you second-guess every thought, every reaction, every pain, because they have taught you that what you feel is wrong, that what you feel is too much, that what you feel does not matter. But they are wrong. They are wrong because your emotions are not a weakness. Your pain is not an inconvenience. Your feelings are not something to be mocked or silenced or made small so that someone else can feel bigger. Someone who truly values you does not dismiss your emotions, does not laugh at your pain, does not make you feel like you are broken simply for feeling deeply. Someone who truly values you listens, honors, acknowledges, even when they do not fully understand, even when they do not feel the same, because they know that your emotions are a part of you, and to belittle them is to belittle you. So you must ask yourself why. Why do they do this? Why do they need to make you feel small? Why do they need to strip you of the certainty of your own feelings? Why do they need to teach you to doubt yourself so that they can feel right? The answer is as painful as it is clear, because if they can control the way you feel, if they can make you question your own emotions, then they can make you easier to manipulate, easier to silence, easier to keep exactly where they want you. But you do not have to stay there. You do not have to live in the prison of their making. You do not have to carry the weight of their dismissal as if it is proof of your own insignificance, because your emotions are real, your pain is real, your experiences are real, and no one, no matter how much they try to convince you otherwise, has the right to take that away from you. So you rise, you reclaim your voice, you speak even when they roll their eyes, even when they scoff, Even when they try to laugh away the things that matter to you, you refuse to be made small. You refuse to be reshaped into something that makes them more comfortable. You refuse to apologize for feeling, because to feel is to be alive, to feel is to be human, and no one, no matter how much they try, can take that away from you. There are people who do not need to raise their voices, do not need to argue, do not need to strike at you with cruel words or open hostility to leave you feeling utterly depleted. Their presence alone is enough. Their energy is enough. Their very existence in your space is enough to drain the life from you like a slow and steady leak in a vessel you did not even realize was breaking. You do not see it at first. You dismiss it as exhaustion. You tell yourself you are just having a long day. You convince yourself that it is all in your head. But then it happens again and again and again, and a pattern begins to form. You walk into a room feeling light, feeling at peace, feeling full of something bright. But by the time you leave, you are heavy, tired, uneasy, as if something invisible has reached inside you and taken more than it had any right to take. It is not always obvious. It does not always come in the form of conflict or cruelty. Sometimes it is in the way they linger just a little too long, in the way their words seem fine on the surface, but carry something else, something darker, something that clings to you long after the conversation has ended. Sometimes it is in the way you feel like you must shrink yourself in their presence, in the way you feel like you must walk carefully, as if on unstable ground, in the way you feel like nothing you say is ever truly heard or received with warmth or understanding. They do not have to attack you to drain you. They do not have to argue with you to exhaust you. They only have to exist in your space with their hidden resentment, their quiet hostility, their unspoken discontent, and you feel it, whether they acknowledge it or not, whether they even realize it or not, because energy does not lie, and the body does not ignore what the mind tries to dismiss. It is in the conversations that feel like you are running in circles, like you are speaking but not truly connecting, like your words are being absorbed and twisted into something unrecognizable. It is in the moments when you find yourself explaining, defending, justifying, when there was never a need to do so before. It is in the way your victories feel smaller around them, in the way your laughter feels forced, in the way your joy feels like something you must protect instead of something you can freely share. You begin to notice that after seeing them, you are not just tired, but deeply weary, in a way that is hard to describe, in a way that feels more like a spiritual fatigue than anything physical. You notice that you are not quite yourself, that your thoughts feel heavier, that your heart feels dimmer. You notice that being around them is not just draining but confusing, because you cannot point to any one moment, any one word, any one action that explains why you feel this way. And yet, the feeling is undeniable. And so you ask yourself, why? Why does this person affect you in this way? Why does their presence shift the air around you? Why does your body tense when they enter a room? Why does your mind feel fogged after spending time with them? Why does you feel as though you must recover after every interaction, even though nothing openly hostile has happened? And then you understand, it is not about what is said, it is about what is felt. It is about the silent war being waged beneath the surface, a war they may not even admit to, a war of unspoken jealousy, resentment, competition, a war where their energy is the weapon and you are the one left wounded without ever knowing you were in a battle at all. But now that you see it, now that you know you have a choice, do you continue to allow yourself to be depleted, to be slowly unraveled by something that cannot even be named? Or do you step away? Do you choose to guard your energy as fiercely as you guard your time? Do you recognize that not every battle is meant to be fought, that some battles are simply meant to be walked away from. Because the truth is this: some people will never openly betray you, never openly harm you, never openly reveal their resentment, but they will still take from you. They will take your light, your clarity, your sense of peace without ever needing to ask for it. And the only way to stop them is to recognize them for what they are and refuse to give them access to the parts of you that they are trying so desperately to drain. There is a kind of pain that does not strike like lightning, does not roar like thunder, does not wound like a blade in the open air. It moves silently in the spaces between words, in the glances that do not quite meet yours, in the energy that shifts when you enter a room. It is a pain born not from the obvious enemies of the world, but from those who stand beside you with a hand on your shoulder while holding resentment in their hearts. It is the pain of knowing that someone close to you, someone you have trusted, someone you have let into the sacred space of your life, does not truly wish you well, does not truly stand with you, does not truly see you as you are, but instead sees a version of you they cannot embrace. And what do you do with that knowledge? What do you do when the mask slips, when the truth reveals itself in a passive-aggressive remark, in an absence where support should have been, in a laugh that stings more than it soothes, in a silence that feels louder than words? How do you carry the weight of knowing that someone you once thought was a friend, a confidant, a presence of warmth has been harboring something cold, something bitter, something that feeds on your light? Instead of celebrating it, you do not run from it, you do not deny it, you do not convince yourself that it is not real, because your body knows the truth before your mind accepts it. You feel it in your bones, in the way you hesitate before speaking to them, in the way your spirit tenses in their presence, in the way you leave their company, feeling smaller, feeling lesser, feeling like a part of you has been taken rather than nourished. And that is not love, that is not friendship, that is not the bond that you deserve. You deserve to be surrounded by those who lift you, not those who wait for your fall. You deserve to share your victories with those who celebrate, not those who diminish. You deserve to exist in spaces where your energy is protected, not stolen, where your presence is honored, not merely tolerated, where your soul is seen, not resented. You do not have to beg for authenticity. You do not have to explain the way their words, their actions, their hidden glances make you feel. You do not have to justify your intuition when it tells you that something is not right. So you let go. You release the need to be understood by those who have already chosen to misunderstand you. You release the need to be accepted by those who have already rejected you in the silence of their own hearts. You release the weight of wondering why, of trying to fix what was never whole to begin with. Because the truth is this: you cannot change them. You cannot force love where there is resentment. You cannot heal wounds that they refuse to acknowledge. But you can walk away. You can step forward. You can reclaim every piece of yourself that was dimmed by their presence, and you can give it back to those who see you truly, who hold you with honesty, who meet you with the kind of love that does not waver, does not falter, does not hide behind masks. And when you do, when you finally free yourself from the burden of their hidden hatred, you will feel something you have not felt in a long time. You will feel light again. You will feel whole again. You will feel like yourself again. And that is worth more than any illusion of friendship you once thought you needed. There is no betrayal more silent, more insidious, more gut-wrenching than the hatred that hides behind a smile, the kind that does not announce itself with shouts or accusations, but lingers in the spaces between words, in the tension just beneath the surface, in the feeling that something is off. Even when nothing obvious has been said, you sense it before you understand it, you feel it before you can prove it, It lives in the way they speak your name, in the way they offer their congratulations, in the way their laughter sounds just a little too sharp, just a little too empty, just a little too forced. You tell yourself it is nothing. You tell yourself you are imagining it because this person is close to you, because they have walked beside you through moments of joy, through moments of sorrow, because once upon a time you believed in them, believed in their kindness, in their presence, in their place in your life. And yet, something has changed, something unseen, something unspoken, something that makes you hesitate before sharing good news, before reaching out, before letting them too far into the sacred spaces of your heart. And the truth is this: hatred does not always come in the form of an enemy. Sometimes it lives in the people who stand right beside you. It does not always come with open cruelty. Sometimes it hides in backhanded compliments, in the absence of support, in the subtle ways they make you feel smaller, less certain, less alive. It does not always reveal itself with a single blow. Sometimes it chips away at you piece by piece until you find yourself questioning your own worth, your own success, your own perception of reality. But you are not imagining it. You are not paranoid. You are not wrong to feel the shift, to sense the coldness beneath their warmth, to hear the quiet bitterness beneath their words, to recognize that not all smiles are genuine, not all friendships are real, not all love is without condition. And the longer you ignore it, the heavier it becomes. The more you justify it, the more it takes from you. The more you pretend it is not there, the deeper it buries itself into the foundation of your life, until one day you wake up and realize you have been carrying the weight of someone else's hidden resentment for far too long. So we must ask the question, what does it look like when someone close to you secretly despises you? How do they reveal themselves even when they believe they are still hidden? How do you recognize the truth when it is wrapped in the illusion of closeness, in the illusion of care, in the illusion of something that once felt real but has since turned hollow? If you do not see the signs, you will miss them. If you do not trust yourself, you will explain them away. If you do not act, you will stay entangled in something that is already poisoning you from within. But you do not have to stay blind. You do not have to stay bound. You do not have to continue giving pieces of yourself to someone who has already decided in the quiet chambers of their heart that they do not truly stand with you. The signs are there. The question is, will you see them? Will you believe them? Will you free yourself before their hidden hatred turns into the cage that keeps you small?